Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now let's get back to our top stories. What do you get when you have passion for news and try to live the story? I'll tell you what you get. High risk, especially when you're dealing with a country torn by crisis. That's the exact case with 20 journalists who are facing charges in Egypt. 16 are Egyptians accused of belonging to a terrorist organization, and 4 are foreigners accused of assisting it or spreading false news. The defendants include 2 Britons, a Dutch national, and an Australian. The media organizations to which those journalists belong, as well as other media organizations, have called for the release of 5 of those involved. The 16 Egyptian defendants face several allegations, including belonging to a terrorist group, harming national unity and social peace, and using terrorism as a means to their goals. The 4 foreigners are accused of collaborating with the Egyptians and providing them with information, equipment, and money, as well as broadcasting false information and rumors to convince the international community that Egypt was undergoing a civil war. Let's listen to what journalists have to say about press freedom being in jeopardy in Egypt.
I think it's really just this snowball effect of paranoia and lack of trust in the press that kind of you see especially a lot with sort of the pro-army crowds. And you know, it seems to be a byproduct in some ways of sort of this rising kind of sense of nationalism and the emotion that comes with it. And a lot of times it just comes, I think, with a lot of distrust and hostility towards the press.
I couldn't agree more with Basil there. Well, unfortunately, 8 of the defendants are in detention, while 12 are on the run with arrest warrants issued against them. We'll bring you more information on how this case is going, but for now, let's take a look at how things are going with Mohamed Morsi, the Egyptian president who was ousted back in July 2013.
Morsi stood trial along with more than 130 other Muslim Brotherhood members of the Palestinian militant group Hamas, and Lebanese Shiite militant group Hezbollah for storming the Wadi al-Natrun prison and killing police officers during the 2011 Tahrir Square uprising. More than 20,000 prisoners escaped from the prisons in 2011, and investigations have revealed that contacts were made among Brotherhood leaders, the ousted president, the Islamist Hamas movement, and Hezbollah to spread chaos, storm prisons, and train militants in Egypt. However, the judge made the announcement hours later that the trial would be postponed to February 22. While Morsi had his day in court, a senior Egyptian Interior Ministry official met his maker when 2 gunmen on a motorbike assassinated him outside of his home in Cairo on Tuesday, January the 28th. He was shot while in his car shortly after leaving his home. The vehicle was then taken to a police station in the Haram area of Jizar. This move only adds to the pressure which the military-backed government is experiencing as it tries to contain an Islamist insurgency. The death of General Mohamed suggests that militants are stepping up their campaign against the state at a delicate time in Egyptian politics.
Now, as regards Egypt's political future, one man seems to have the majority support at the moment. He goes by the name of Al-Sisi. 3 years after the Arab Spring toppled Hosni Mubarak, a secretive field marshal with a court-like following is expected to announce his candidacy for presidency of Egypt ahead of elections, which he is expected to win easily. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has been urged to run by members of the public who reject the Islamist government he toppled last year, and by members of the armed forces who want a president who can face down growing political violence.
On Monday, Egypt's top military council gave Al-Sisi the green light to seek the presidency, and the interim president installed 6 months ago promoted him to field marshal from general. Sisi has calculated that he can win the support even of some of those who supported Mohamed Morsi for president in 2012. A strategic analyst, Sameh Saif Al-Yazai, said it was crucial that Al-Sisi share his plans for Egypt with the public.
He will definitely have a good plan, and I'm sure he will talk to the people about the problems and the issues we are facing now in this country, and he hasn't got an immediate solution for everything. He has to tell the people, I think he will, that we have issues, these issues will take some time, you have to bear with me, we are going to suffer a little bit, and we have to know that beforehand.
Despite his present popularity, Sisi has no record as a Democrat and has shown himself willing to use deadly force against those who disagree with him.
There's no doubt that if Sisi presents himself as a candidate in the presidential elections, he'll have a very big chance of winning from the first round. And this would be catastrophic, of course, because this goes against all of what we've stood for, against the militarization of the state, against having a brutal dictator from the army rule with an iron fist and to crush any revolutionary movement and to kind of suppress the people in favor of the ruling class and whatnot, which we've had during the entire era of Mubarak.
The world knew little of Al-Sisi before he appeared on television on July the 3rd and announced the removal of Morsi after mass protests against the Islamist leader. It was Morsi who appointed Sisi Army Chief of Staff and Defense Minister in August 2012, perhaps his gravest mistake.
Don't go away. After the break, it's all about getting justice and paying respects to 6 million people. Join me again for the details.
22 airports around the country, an industry that generates billions of naira, connecting millions for business and leisure, will put you through the paces and give you an insider's view on the aviation industry. Watch Aviation This Week only on Channels Television. Aviation This Week, keeping an eye on the aviation industry.
Welcome back. Let's take a moment to check out what's happening here at home in Nigeria. January the 27th was a highly symbolic day. It's a day which the United Nations sets aside annually to remember the 6 million Jewish lives which were lost in the space of a decade. That event was one which literally took the intervention of the United States, Britain and Canada in order to bring the horrific systematic mass killings of 1935 through 1945 to an end. I had the privilege of attending the ceremony, and here's what I saw.
Then it is decreed that death will be the punishment for anyone who leaves the ghetto illegally. Since smuggling requires periodic...
Pain is something everyone can relate to. So even though the Holocaust, which led to the death of 6 million Jews, took place under the Nazi regime in Germany, it is one event in history which no one wants to see a repeat of. The Holocaust Remembrance Day is one which the United Nations Information Center marks annually on January the 27th, so as to ensure that even if those hurt by the tragedy might have found a place to forgive, the torture which the victims had to endure will never be forgotten.
The truth is that the freedom that we enjoy today is based upon the blood that has been shed by other people. At the same time, I think it's important for young people to understand that inhumanity to man is not something that started just yesterday. It's not something that is typically African. It is something that is a global issue.
In order to help the children have a better understanding of how tragic and symbolic the Holocaust was, a film was displayed and a competition was put together by the United Nations with the theme, The Journey Through the Holocaust. The top 16 were selected from around the world, and even though the kids have no direct connection with the victims of the Holocaust, the pictures which they portrayed certainly spoke volumes.
In this Holocaust, we must try our best never to allow this to happen again in human history because of the millions of people that died there.
One thing remains certain. The mark made by the Holocaust is one that can never be erased. And as far as the United Nations Information Center is concerned, the Holocaust is one journey which must never occur again. Now, just before we call it a day, let's take a moment to celebrate Africa. Despite all the challenges and crises that we face, there's still hope and a lot to be grateful for. For instance, take 25-year-old Manda Maseko, who is doing Africa proud. He's been feeling out of this world for the last month, and he won a competition organized by a US-based space academy, and the prize is a return ticket to outer space, which he won, making him the first black African to make the trip.
Maseko, a part-time DJ in South Africa's capital Pretoria, had no aviation experience or training in outer space travel, but he had a dream that he would one day be part of something extraordinary.
Just when I think of the title, First, and when I think of the many firsts that come with that title, it's overwhelming, you know. When you think of your first Mandela, your first Obama, you know, all those people, it's like, wow. And when it comes to opportunities, I am hoping to pursue this. Well, not pursue, I will pursue this as a career.
Maseko grew up in the Mabopane township and calls himself a typical township boy. In 2015, he will leave not only his family and friends in the township behind, but gravity and the Earth's atmosphere as well. He beat 1 million other contestants from around the world to succeed in various grueling tasks that tested him physically, mentally, and emotionally. One of the tests involved skydiving from 10,000 feet. Another test, maintaining balance and not throwing up in a spinning room that at some point had no floor. After he was announced the winner, this young man from humble beginnings spent a week at the Kennedy Space Academy in Florida, USA, flying fighter jets and watching rockets launch into space. He says the experience has grounded him and made him want to help other young people reach for daring dreams because anything is possible.
And with that, I say, Wenze Kakule Mandla Maseko, meaning well done Mandla Maseko in the Gosa language. That's where we will draw the curtains on this episode of Network Africa. Many thanks for your company, and let's do this again next week. I'm Cynthia Are. Bye for now.
A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is a place treasured, as major actors in the Africa arena plot a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, from the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and the strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.